This just in, Zack Snyder has completely lost his mind. Look, he's in the news again. Rebel Moon Part 2 comes out in just a day's time. So, of course, he's going to be talking about anything and everything that isn't Rebel Moon, because nobody cares about this series. Nobody cared about the first one. The first one flopped. It did terribly. The second one, there's no hype around it. And honestly, everything that Zack Snyder has been doing and helping pump up excitement has been utilizing old films and old stories that he's made or has done to build the hype. Like, he talked about Sucker Punch the other day, and that got his fandom all riled up. He then showed a picture of Henry Cavill as Superman. Oh, he just randomly found a picture of Superman or Henry Cavill Superman, and he posts that, and his fandom gets all riled up. But if you notice, nobody's getting riled up for Rebel Moon Part 2. Well, he has to always talk about everything. He really does. And on Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, or whatever it is that they do there, he was discussing with the host that he goes, "You may love or hate my movies. I'm 100% fine with that. But a vote against me is a vote for the focus groups." First off, that is just idiotic, okay? Zack Snyder is a divisive director. I like most of his films. I'm not a fan of Sucker Punch. I'm not a fan of Rebel Moon. Everything else has been all right. Army of the Dead was okay. I like his DC universe that he was building. But he's a divisive director. To sit there and say that you vote against him, a vote against his films is a vote for focus groups, I think is asinine. And I think he's starting to lose it. I think he's starting to realize that his career isn't headed down the trajectory that he really wanted it to be. And I think he is, for lack of a better term, just gone crazy. Like, he's gone crazy. He won't accept the L. He won't, just like what happened a few weeks ago when he talked about Batman killing, which I'm okay with. I believe that, yes, the creator, the artist, the person who's utilizing Batman should be allowed to write the character as they see fit. But then he goes on the attack and attacks the fans a couple weeks later. Like, that's not good behavior. I think he is really struggling with the fact that Rebel Moon didn't do as good as it was supposed to do. Nobody's talking about Rebel Moon Part 2, and I think it's starting to eat him up a little bit. He goes, no, by saying Snyder sucks, you're also saying, you know what, give me more focus groups. I want Happy Meals. So he's basically calling movies that are built in committee and shown to focus groups as Happy Meal films. And that isn't always the case. Absolutely. I believe that they need to cut back on the amount of hands and people that they have making movies. But a vote against Zack Snyder, somebody who says they don't like Zack Snyder films, that is not what they're saying, because he is a divisive director. If he wasn't such a divisive director, well, maybe people would be on board with things. But he's not a good writer. He's not a good storyteller. Sure, visually, absolutely great. But everything he does is just so large, and it's almost like he focuses too much on the end game and not what's right in front of him. And all he wants to do is get to that end game, but loses his focus on what's in front of him. And that's one of the issues with him. But, it doesn't stop there. He admits in this same, I believe it was this same interview, he admits that he has a small fan base. I have a very small group of fans who I trust, and they'll filter what's being said online, or my son Eli will show me. And this was a response to, Zack says after so many ups and downs of how he's viewed since early in his career, he doesn't care about what's going on online. No, that's obviously not true. The fact that in one interview he says, if you're against me, you want focus groups, shows that he cares, that he does care about what people are saying about him online. And then he says that I have a very small group of fans, which is true. The Snyderverse fandom, the Snyder cultists, whatever you want to call them, is not as large as you would think they are. They're a very loud minority of a fandom. Very toxic and loud fandom. Very toxic and loud. But he admits it here. They're not a very large fan base. And then he trusts very few people within his fan base, and then his son Eli. That's just crazy to me. You know, it goes to show that he will go to no extent to try and make himself look like he's better than everyone else. And that is like a cult leader mentality. And that's crazy that, you know, we call the Snyder fandom Snyder cultists. And they go, no, we're not cults. We're not a cult. But when the person you're essentially worshiping talks and acts like that, it's kind of bizarre. It is kind of bizarre. Moving on to one last thing about Zack. He mentioned how Leonardo DiCaprio was in talks to play Lex Luthor in BVS, but that would have broken DiCaprio's superhero movie role, because he does have a role that he won't be in a superhero movie. He goes, Leonardo DiCaprio and I talked about it. I think DiCaprio, he had a lot of great ideas actually just in the meeting. I think in the end he was like, I don't know. But he was really smart about the material and really smart about the character. He also said that I think he was the one that mentioned to me the idea about Superman fighting the Justice League at some point. And I was like, that sounds cool. I don't know. Every time we hear Snyder talk, it just seems like there's just another problem, another issue, something else that just baffles me on why he would even say something or why he would even bring it up. But why are we talking about BVS? Why are we talking about DC content under Snyder? He has a movie coming out in one day. But the only way he can get people excited is by talking about something that never happened in his old DC films. That's just baffling to me. And people eat it up. People just continuously eat it up. They're being played to give false hype around a movie that is coming out. I don't know. I want to know what you guys think about all this. Zack, I think, has completely lost it at this point. I don't know. He needs to just take the L is what he needs to do. He needs to back off for a little bit. Let the fandom calm down. He needs to tell his fans, like, look, the DC stuff is over. But let me know what you think. Leave a comment below or to the side or wherever the comment section is nowadays. With all that said, I'll catch you all later.